Hey, Alex the editor here with a blast from the past. Our COO Ling and our CEO David had a chat on Clubhouse with the folks from Genesis Investment. It was filmed way back in March 22nd, 2021. Feels like a lifetime ago. Enjoy.
Good. Thank you for the patience. First time joining Clubhouse.
Oh my God, this is crazy. I actually wanted to ask you, how did you manage to avoid this craze around Clubhouse? but it's one of our questions for today, so I think that we will discuss this.
I think it's just my nature. I don't know if it's David's too. Like whenever anything is a hype, I try to avoid, just like out of like rebellion. Like I don't want to follow the hype for as long as I can. But yeah, I was telling David, I like it right now already because as a woman, I always have to put on makeup for Zoom calls and podcast calls. So this is a breath of fresh air.
Oh yeah, I can totally relate to that.
True, so true. Okay, so will we wait for David or will you be...
Hello.
Oh, you're together. Perfect.
Yeah.
Hi, David.
We're joining together in the same room.
The same avatar, which is amazing, by the way. Wonderful logo.
Yep,
Okay.
That's pixelated Hackanoon, our trademark.
Yoo-hoo. Okay, so let's kick off the meeting. Elena has a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions for you guys, and I'm sure that as we speak, more people will be joining us. And do you prefer to kick off with a question?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to thank you for coming to our small show, and I hope that we will have a fruitful conversation today. And I just for those people who maybe don't know what Hackanoon is, so I wanted to ask you to describe Hackanoon in one sentence or in a couple of sentences, because Hackanoon at the first glance is about, it's a media outlet, it's a blog, it's a community for contributors. So we would like to hear more from you as the creators of Hackanoon, of what Hackanoon is for you.
Hey, so we made Hackanoon to be a place for technologists to read, write, and publish. Hopefully it can become a place where anyone can learn. And we started as a pure publication, and we evolved to not only employ editors, but also software developers. And we built our own content management system, and we built slogging, and we built a Noonies and a few other softwares that are out there. And yeah, that's what we made.
Yeah, I always laugh when people refer to it as this big tech company. We bootstrapped for a long time, for 2-3 years, until we have this small team. So yeah, we're very much still operating with the spirit of a startup, and we like our team.
Thanks. And can you tell me more? So you have this structure in which anyone basically who wants to write an article or a piece or an opinion piece or some analytical article, so he or she can do this on his own, and it's like a blog. But at the same time, a lot of people treat it as a media outlet. And so how do you think, is it a problem or is it a benefit for you? So how do you feel what Hackanoon is currently for the most of your users and readers, and how people should, in your opinion, perceive this?
Yeah, that's a good question. The way I think about how we exist in this kind of media technology news world is that we in between the space of traditional journalism, Street Journal, the New York Times, tech news versus like just general social media. So like journalism, we have editors to vet every single piece. So everyone who submits stories on Hackanoon will go through what we call the second human rule. We want someone to make sure that it's a good enough quality piece, checking for facts and grammar, structure of the stories. But it's similar to social media in a way that literally anyone can submit a story to Hackanoon. They don't need to be a professional writer. That's their day job. Actually, we have more people whose day job is something else. Like they work in the tech industry or they know something about the tech industry and they want to share it with the rest of the world. So in that way, it's pretty similar to social media, very democratic and very accessible for everyone.
And I think if you look at technology companies as a whole, how we used to get news about them in the early days of the internet is a press release and what they put on their website. And the idea of like customers talking about them or employees having tens of thousands of words connected to their names online, like the early days of the internet, companies didn't even have that many words connected to their names. So I think we're really capitalizing on a movement where it's the employees and it's the customers and it's the lives impacted by these tech companies that shape what their story is and what the company is. So I think we're kind of, like I said, capitalizing on that and empowering customers and employees to tell the stories of tech companies.
And to answer your question about whether or not it's a benefit, like absolutely, I think everyone benefits from having their stories, their opinions documented for the interwebs, especially when we in this online world, like the world just experienced this shock to the system of everything got accelerating in terms of being online in the past year. And I think we sitting right there at that trend.
Okay, I see. And talking about trends, how do you see Hackanoon in a couple of years or in 5 years? And how do you see the media industry overall?
The media industry overall, I hope there's a lot less paywalls. I hope there's a lot more businesses. I think media as a whole and the tech industry as a whole are far too consolidated. And once you're consolidated at the level they're at, you have too much power over curation. So I would hope the software gets better and more small companies and more medium-sized companies can emerge and be independent businesses. And they don't need to be owned by a larger corporation to be profitable. This idea of acquire users in order to sell them or build a brand in order to sell it, I understand it's part of the industry, but I hope it becomes, less prominent.
I'm all for democratizing the industry, the tech publishing industry and publishing as a whole. I was just listening to a podcast this morning and they mentioned HBO Max in association with Warner Brothers as controlled by AT&T. And I was just like, oh no, it's a flashback of this Parks and Rec episode about how the world is just like 6 corporations. And I do not envision this world being part of our plan. In fact, I want citizen journalism and whoever that has a story to be part of our story. And I just think it's a lot better for the world. David mentioned a little bit about walled gardens. As you probably can tell, we're very against paywalls and anything that makes it more difficult for people to access knowledge, I think is a bad thing.
Okay, I see. And so have you noticed this current change in the media? And I actually wanted to ask your opinion on this change. So a lot of media outlets currently, they are launching their paid newsletters. They are launching their own podcasts, and that Hackanoon also has a podcast. And also they are trying to monetize through paid subscription, but I don't see it's happening because a lot of media offer this discounts for their subscriptions, so they're probably not that well off by monetizing through subscriptions. So how do you think will this current trend persevere in the future, and how it will evolve eventually, and why don't you do the same? Because as I remember for our previous conversations with you, you are not planning to sell subscriptions on Hackanoon, and you're planning to stay free for the readers.
Yeah, I think the internet is a great invention, and having all this, imagine having the Library of Alexandria in like the year 1500 or even the year 1900 or even the year 1950. It's always been a cool thing about what attracted me to this work of bringing all this content to a lot of people. And I personally just get so frustrated the moment you've entered my inbox or my news feed with a tease, and now I click to consume the content, and now I've been baited and I have to switch and pay you in order to get it. So I think that experience of how the internet works is not great. But I do think it's really cool that more solutions are emerging for creators to monetize their work. And so for some people, if you have a niche where it's not that many people are interested in it, but a lot of it's really valuable to them, I understand more of the Patreon or the paid Substack model as a way to reward the person who's making the content. But for most stories online, the people that are actually willing to pay for it are something like 1 or 2 or 3% of the people that are willing to read it. So how do you monetize that entire middle group? Or do you just never do business with that middle group and you never grow? because you're only serving your existing customers, which means it's impossible to get new customers unless you bait and switch again. So I understand why a lot of people are doing it, and I think it's great. I think Substack is a really cool thing for someone that just wants to go on their own and monetize the people that already believe in them. I think that's a really great, powerful thing. But even look at this app we're on now. It's only available invite only on an iPhone. And it's like you get in these loops.
Which is hard to, like, as a publishing company, like we value kind of documentations, like the proof that it exists, the conversation exists a lot. So right now we just trust that whoever that listens just takes notes. Exactly. But I think
I had a question about it.
Yeah.
Regarding the model of the media, which you a little bit earlier, a little bit on that. I was curious, what do you guys think about the Andreessen Horowitz move to create their own media when, those corporations, those big companies can afford launch their own publications, I would say. How do you see this as a perspective? Is it a competition for you guys? How do you approach this kind of landscape development in terms of...
I think Andreessen Horowitz from the very beginning has always had media front and center. Their entire slogan of their company was built on an op-ed to the New York Times. So they've put content front and center from their plan in the beginning. And I think continued investment that they're doing in media is just on the path that I would expect them to do. I don't really think it's a major move or a change of the recent developments, but every company has a media division. What size are you, and then what size is the media division within your company? I think in venture capital, perception matters a lot, and I think they've got that from the very beginning, and it's going to see how much money has Hacker News made Y Combinator. It's a crazy amount of money that people go there first to comment. They value being at the top of that page. That is driving all the inbound submissions, and it helps them negotiate better terms with founders. So I think from the beginning, venture capital and media have been highly intertwined, and venture capitalists that invest more in media see those returns down the line in their companies.
And I think to connect to the point earlier David made, everybody benefit from knowledge spreading faster and in more places. So we don't see other new media companies emerging as our competition. We have some of the same audience, but that is also the reason why we don't put paywalls on our site and vouch to never do so, because we believe that people benefit from having knowledge whichever way they choose and where they choose to read it from.
Thank you for the comments. And I just wonder, you mentioned a couple of times that the fact about your community and the fact about the contributors, and that that actually not only you, but the other media outlets, they also need to figure out the ways on how to monetize the content for the creators. And I think that this is a case for similar platforms as, for example, Clubhouse, because they're trying to figure out how to reward the creators for the content that they generate. And I wanted to ask you about your own take on how do you think is it the most viable option on how to monetize, on how to help creators monetize their content if they're generating video content or audio or they write pieces. And also another question is regarding community building. So how do you think is the optimal model for you to build a real community around something which stay with the platform not only for a couple of months but for a long time? Because I think that it's only my opinion, but I think that you've managed to do.
Yeah, so it's with monetization of content and growing community. These things do go hand in hand, but there are trade-offs. With Hackanoon, we've optimized heavily for the contributors' call to action, and the idea is that everyone on the web has a place they want to drive content to, or has a destination that they want to drive traffic to, I should say. Mm-hmm. So we've put that call to action front and center on their author bio and on the story page and say, hey, we're not trying to make sure all traffic stays here forever, which is one of the newsfeed scroll problems that just is annoying. They don't want you to leave. Like I remember the early days of Facebook, you would go to the browser when you click through. Now you're on a Facebook news feed or basically any other social network, you stay within the browser. So we always wanted to have a more honest and fair relationship with our contributors about moving traffic from Hackanoon to wherever your corner of the internet is. But we also do want people to gain value from the readership on our site. So we partnered with Coil, and when Coil subscribe, they automatically stream payments in the browser to the Hackanoon contributors. So the way Coil works is based on your time reading. You distribute your monthly payment to all the sites that are web monetized. And we have around 1,000 authors are using this feature now.
It's an experimentation stage still. We partner with Coil so people can get money streamed to their wallet, and it's very small streams, like less than $5, because $5 is what Coil members pay to be a member, and whatever they read on the interwebs will be streamed to whoever is the creator of the content they read. But there's more things that we can do. We're trying to do these paid video calls with Super Peer. All Hackanoon writers who want to install the feature will have book a call with me, and then they can set a price for how much money they want to be paid per half an hour or per hour. So those are like experiments that we're trying to do to see if there's a good kind of rev share agreement or just any kind of money that we can drive to the contributors. But like David say, I think the most important thing that we do right now is distribution for the contributors themselves. So for example, for me, put my call to action as my personal site. That's my take on politics or feminism, whatever else. Other people will have hire me or driving to their paid newsletters or anything. So it really depends on them, because our biggest strength right now as a platform is distribution, and driving traffic to the contributors is the most important thing that we can do to indirectly drive money to them.
And if you see some of these startup folks talk about the value of building a community before a product and having a community before you sell them something. So there is a never-ending balance that your community always has to be larger than your number of customers. Your number of customers never is going to be larger than your number of communities. So when you think about growing that funnel as a creator, and a creator looking at that funnel as something that's for their own business, they have to decide where do I put the gasoline on growth, and then where do I try to extract that growth and get them to pay me. And so the subscriber model of direct subscribers, just not very many of your community is likely to pay you. So you have to look for middle opportunities or make your top of funnel wider so you can drive that lower part of the funnel. So I don't think it's a one size fits all thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's something where you sit down with the type of content you're making, and then you look and how do I want to put this on the internet to get the end result I want? Yeah,
like some business decisions that we've made, like other would probably not have done, like the decision not to do the paywalls and such. And I think a lot of people like us for that. A lot of people like that we ugly green, that we're pixelated, that we have the name Hackanoon, that we do ethical advertising. Like we don't track personalized ad or anything. Like we don't follow you around the internet. It's literally just this banner and a couple of slots on the tag. So it's based on the content that you read rather than, who you are as a person. So I think it resonates with a group of people that like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I had a question about that, by the way. So many questions for you guys today. I try to be in one line. First of all, you've mentioned the monetization, and this is a huge topic for media. Everyone tries to solve this conundrum in the best possible way. And obviously, you guys have a huge section on Hackanoon website, and probably were you thinking, I'm guessing here, but maybe you were thinking about doing the donations for authors and blockchain. And the question that kind of follows this one is, do you feel that your move from Medium has been the right decision? I wonder, and do you think many people know that you are no longer on Medium in terms of your readership? Because I'm not even sure that many people understood that you guys moved somewhere. What do you feel about that? So is this move the right decision in terms of making those choices for monetization? And Was blockchain one of those options? Have you considered?
It was the best decision that we made in terms of right. Like, it's not just a right decision. It's the only thing that we could do for the company that would ensure that Hackanoon would exist as a publication as opposed to a concept. So the backstory at the time is we have advertising that's going on, and they change from something that we thought would be a WordPress or a Squarespace into their own publication. And they don't want anyone to have any branding on there except for Medium, and they want to move to the membership model. Again, we're very against paywall. So having people having to pay money to read the fourth or the fifth article, which is against our stance. So at that point, we have to build the new platform. It takes 8 months, but we did it.
And right now, Medium's a tiny percent of our referral traffic. So it's do people, to the question, do they know what we're doing right now? And most people are finding us from Google because they're looking for a specific expert. In terms of was it the right decision, and this year, we're already at a multiple of the amount of money and revenue that Medium offered to buy the entire company.
Of the company.
So it's like, from a business perspective, it's just they're not a good partner. In your history of picking partners, you'll pick good partners, you'll pick bad partners in business and in life, and they'll force you to make decisions. And I'm happy with our timing. I'm happy with our 1,200 shareholders. It's good to have people that believe in what we're doing as opposed to people that may change their mind in what they're doing.
Thank you for that. This is actually a very good point, because sometimes people think that probably partnering with somebody big, especially when you are a startup, it's usually this huge preconception that if you partner with someone big, it will drive you a lot of traffic, but it's all about testing and iterations, and sometimes testing proves that these big partners don't bring that expected traffic as was expected in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And when the partnership was made.
It's about dependencies and strings attached too. Like with a big platform or with anything. I know you guys are VCs, but there's a reason why we started the very first fundraising for Hackanoon with crowdfunding, because we don't want any strings attached. And we want to make sure that we raise from the community. And it was a proof of concept, and it worked. The community believed in us, and 1,200 people chipped in as little as $107, which is the minimum that they can do.
And if you look at why do big companies make partnerships with many small companies, they're not doing it to give away value. At the end of it, like, they've set up a structure that they know they'll gain more value. Zynga could never be bigger than Facebook. It's always going to be a cap. It's just how it's going to be. And if that's what you want, and you can still grow a good company with another company, it's just you're so dependent on them and whoever they hire and whatever change of heart they have at any given moment. And so it's really refreshing to have less of those types of partnerships when you're, building a small business.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, it's late for me to ask that question, and it's a bit funny, but why did you decide to, just for our listeners, why did you decide to raise venture capital money after all?
It started with a strategic investment from Coil, they participated in the crowdfunding round, so we had, good relations with them, and the lead of this investment is predicated on a 3-year partnership to drive web monetization for contributors. So it's something that it started from the place of business development and not from the place of,
to help the contributors whichever way we can. Coil happens to be a partner that not only can give us some money, but also can help the contributors with that. That was really important for us to choose them.
And with them as the lead, and then it was a matter of firms that were interested in what we're doing. We left a little room so they could follow. And that became the Greater Colorado Fund and you guys. Genesis Investments.
Yeah, it's actually a very funny story, and I usually tell about it when some people ask me about our investment. I usually tell the story that they just wrote their CEO on LinkedIn, and he said, "Hey, we are raising a round of investment, so do you want to follow on?" And people are like, "Wow, you wrote them, and they just said so." It's a huge surprise, especially for VC people.
Yeah, no. The more VC people I talk to, the more the things they think I do are strange.
So are you guys still open for new contributions, or the round is closed?
The round is closed,
No more.
but we're thinking we're probably not gonna raise anytime soon or raise ever again if we get to the point where we'll be able to help the contributors be profitable, build a platform that we, the product of which we appreciate. So right now, like our focus, all the gasoline is put on building the best product that we can.
So
as a
when
tech
you say
company.
we're open to contributions, we're open to words. Anyone can come to our site and contribute words. When it comes to money, not right now. Maybe later.
We have some.
Yeah, so following up on my double question about for the contributors, so were you considering any donations in crypto on the platform? If some of the services did try to do that, like on Steam, for instance, have you considered ever something like that, or you chose a different path?
Absolutely, we've considered it, and we've looked at a number of different things, and there's a lot of trade-offs versus building yourself and partnering with others. With the coil revenue that people are making, they can choose to donate it if they want, pretty simply, but it's not really like core in the platform. And then there's really donations to the contributor themselves or the contributors using their earnings to give crypto, which I think is also a powerful use case.
We also donated $10,000 last year and the year prior, and we vouched to match whoever want to donate during this year, like we can match. But yeah, like in terms of crypto, I think the future, like we can look at a couple of NFT. I know that this is such a hot word there, and I vouch not do hype news, but we did talk quite a bit.
This is hype news. This is the room.
Yeah, we
About
can talk about it
NFTs.
here. This is a safe space to talk about.
Like we mentioned, Medium, like we have multiple times exceeded in terms of revenue, the money they offered to buyers, like back in 2018. So I think it would be a fun thing to do something about that.
Cool. We have Alexandra join us. Alexandra, hi. Did you want to ask a question or make a comment?
Hi everyone. Thank you, Liliana. Thank you everyone actually for a cool, really useful room. I'm Alex. I'm working for TikTok as a brand marketing lead. I have a question more kind of operational. I'm curious, as I know that Hackanoon more kind of UGC platform. So I'm curious if you could share if there is any moderation before go live with their publishers, or if so, how does it work, like moderational model? And also I'm curious about the monetization, if the writers actually earning some money. If so, also curious to know monetization model, if you're able to share, of course. Thank you.
Thanks.
So all stories go through a part-time staff editor at Hackanoon. So they're reviewing about 10 to 30 minutes, quality, grammar, fact-checking, headline, feature image, improving the quality so that anyone can contribute a story and it'll be reviewed within, the average is about 2.5 business. So anyone can submit a story and expect to hear back within that time frame.
Yeah, we reject maybe like a third of the stories. More than that? Yeah. These days more because we have more submissions, but there is a standard, a bar that people have to cross in order to be on Hackanoon. You can't just post some unverified information about some competitors and say that it's objective.
Working at TikTok, I imagine your philosophy is a little different of the more is better content, and your moderations are more on the evil and the bad side of things versus but it is, I think, a good thing for the internet if just before you hit that post button, another human's able to look at it and say, hey, if this lived forever, would you be happy with it? And so I think that mindset has improved the overall quality of the site tremendously. In terms of monetization, the contributors own their content, and we're trying to optimize for them to use their call to action and drive traffic to their corner of the internet and monetize there. But we do have Coil, web monetization, meta tag, super peer, book a call with me, and it's something we need to get better at. We're offering a few things that could become the beginning of a marketplace, but also with the ads themselves for monetizing Hackanoon, we're not tracking our readers, matching for bidding on Google Ads. It's all we're selling directly to our customers.
Yes.
And so that, I think, creates much more relevance and quality with our advertisements.
Yeah, so in short, there's some monetization, but the main thing is like I mentioned, we drive distribution and traffic to the contributors so they can do something with the traffic, including monetization on their own platform.
Amazing. Thank you for answering, guys. So yeah, I agree with you. The logic behind the TikTok moderation is same. I think it's same for all of the video platforms moderation. How it works, like once the user like uploads the content, and then first and second wave of moderation. But I was curious, how does it work for news platforms? So thank you for your sharing, and yeah, continue to do amazing work, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Cool question. Yeah, I agree. So with the text, someone still has to read it. No AI is capable to evaluate an article yet.
They're getting closer.
I mean, some AI, yeah. Like we can
Really?
like read out some bad keywords, not on our platform yet, but like I think the future of AI use some in Hackanoon platform is very close.
I mean, we have some spam prevention stuff that's going on, and I think headline generating is something we'll be working on more there, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, and we have a partnership that's coming out pretty soon with not like an AI, but like pretty similar. So we're not gonna reveal accidentally on today's call, but we're happy with that partnership.
Did everyone sign an NDA for today's call?
We have to. I guess we have Sun Yam. Correct me if I'm pronouncing correctly.
No, that's great. Thanks. I
You
just
had a
wanted
question.
to share, I didn't have a question. I thought I'd just share my experience about just writing for Hackanoon. So I've been a long-term contributor. I think David would recognize me, but the part about hey guys, but the part about a human reading your article. So I started out in 2017, and David was very helpful with the feedback. That was really helpful in guiding my career, so to speak, as a content creator.
Wow.
Aw, we're like almost crying here. Like we go through so much ups and downs with the company, but like it's moments like this that make it all worth it. Just like a little messages on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and like Sanyam to just show up at the call. It just makes it all
I
worth
do
it.
think people can forget how lonely the internet is. It's like they spend so much time on the screen just hoping there's someone on the other side of the screen that cares about the same thing or something similar. And it's just been something that I hope the internet can get better about, and maybe we did a small part of doing it.
Yeah.
100%.
We have Magbot. I'm not sure. Do you have a question?
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what up. I'm a longtime Hackanoon contributor. I wrote an article that did a huge change. It made the president of my first company change. So now I just wrote a new one trying to get the CEO changed.
Oh my goodness.
Inspiring.
I love the phone calls. I got a phone call. I got paid $80 to do a phone call. I love that. I'm excited about micropayments. And I wanted to give a shout out to Utsav.
Yes. Oh man, that's yes.
And he just gives me so much positivity. Like, he makes me feel good about, so that's rare to find in media. Usually I just have someone telling me, oh, your story's crap, go away. But the one question I had, I wanted you guys to talk about Gary Tan, having Gary Tan as an investor. What's that been like? And was he kind of the one who told you guys to start exploring crypto and decentralization options? Also, I wanted to know if you guys are ever going to have a Hackanoon token.
Maybe is the answer to the first one. Gary Tan, we actually had just started our equity crowdfunding, and he followed Hackanoon. So that's kind of how we started, just a direct message relationship. Talked to him, went to San Francisco. He's known a little more for crypto now, but the early days of his career, he built an early blogging platform that
Publishing, yeah.
Yeah, so he's had a lot of good feedback in terms of software decision making. And then the whole Initialize team has been, sometimes they get the friendlier side of venture capital, and they've been helpful and consultants and just giving us feedback along the way. They actually helped us get our grant from Google.
I feel like for VCs, like just in general, like you guys have a hard job of balancing like adding value versus is it not enough or is it too much? Like, and then and we definitely see different levels for sure.
Oh, and it's also, you can be really excited about an idea that you don't want to invest in. So there's always these trade-offs amongst what you're excited about and what you invest in. And honestly, I just think he's probably one of the better people with publishing around. So I think it's been really helpful that he's cared about the future of Hackanoon.
Yeah, as for the token, like we kept talking about it, I think we have to build a good product first before like thinking any further.
All right, we have Nick, I don't know.
Nick?
Do you have a question? Nick, maybe? Yeah.
I just joined to say hi. Hello, everyone.
Hey.
No questions attached. Okay.
But it's always cool that we have people joining our conversation, provide the feedback as from the position of a contributor, because I have also contributed a couple of pieces to Hackanoon, and the process is very smooth, and a lot of people, before they write anything to Hackanoon, they usually ask me hard to get published there. And they were really surprised when I said that it's easy if you produce good content and if you are not writing something really promotional, and that the process is pretty smooth and sometimes it's really quick. Like it can take a couple of days only to get published. And a lot of people really appreciate not working with journalists. And this is maybe a bad thing to say, but a lot of people really don't like journalists because they usually receive very bad feedback or no feedback at all from them for their pieces, and for this reason they don't like cooperating with journalists, and they, for some reason, they assume that Hackanoon is also about journalists, and for this reason they are afraid to write something there. And I was usually trying to make this kind of educational work to motivate them. So
that's just so unfortunate. Yeah, that's so unfortunate because I respect journalists so much. But it is true that the process of getting published in any kind of journalism, like publication, is very lengthy. And you go through so many hoops, like maybe months, maybe years, and it's just hard.
I literally get over 50 emails a day of PR firms pitching me stories, and I'm telling them, like, that's not how it works anymore.
Yeah, and willing to publish Hackanoon.com and be like, thank you.
We have Chase. Chase, hi.
Hey.
Hi. Hey, everyone.
Hey, Chase.
Hey,
David. Hey, guys. Yeah, question here. It has to do with the second person policy of somebody at Hackanoon reviewing a submission before it ends up on the site. I'm curious if Hackanoon has ever thought of using some of your best contributors, maybe a group of them, and then a system where the piece gets submitted to some of your power users, and if 3 out of 4 sign off on it, then it gets approved, or that maybe they're the ones providing the feedback and you eventually don't have to pay for that role.
Oh yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Like we talked about this idea and thought of it for a long time now. We have a list of maybe 50, 100 people that we really trust in terms of in the group of the contributors, and we really like the idea of community. We need to come up with some standards, which the editors have been doing this for 2 or 3 years now. They have got very good at documentation. We just need to be able to develop that feature.
Yeah, and there's a lot of give and take there. I think the Minds jury system, Minds.com, they have an interesting jury system that we've been looking at a little bit. And I think, and we also have a massive library now, so it's over 75,000 stories. So we have a good bit of knowledge about, and then every story has 8 tags, and every story creates a certain amount of time reading. So we have a good bit of expertise knowledge of the community in terms of who creates reading time by the subject matter. So that would be the natural step to give those people more power and have the power to publish other people. It's just, it's a long road. That's all. If you asked me the same question a year and a half ago, I would say it would be live right now. But it's not live right now. It has proven to be a trickier problem than the more you learn about a problem, a lot of times the bigger it is.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. I think we can move to a little bit of news discussion. We have a few minutes more left. How do you feel about it, guys?
Sounds good.
Sure.
I want to put this out here, and maybe you will have some thoughts on this. I think this was a very interesting tech news. And by the way, might be also interesting to explore how Hackanoon sees this issue. So Instagram recently announced that they want to launch an app for kids under 13 years old. And this has been widely discussed in the media, most questionable, like it was a questionable decision making. We had Alex from TikTok earlier, so this is probably because Instagram is competing with TikTok for the younger generation, for sure. So this move is a market move. So what do you guys think about it? Do we need, like, on the internet, do we need like more kids on Instagram, or is it even a thing to do in 2021? What do you think about this announcement?
What are you talking about? I'm still on Instagram. I'm a kid. No, we're parents. So I think, like, my first impression to this news is that there has to be a safe space for kids, because you can't really stop kids from being online. You can put some sanction and some grounding techniques as parents, but for the most part, kids are online. And I know the experience from some secondhand accounts of some moms trying to go undercover as a 13-year-old, 14-year-old on Instagram, and it's horrendous. The moment they got on Instagram as a younger person, they get inundated with creepy messages from guys, and as a mother, it hurts. Like, it hurts to just hear stories like that. So I think, I don't know the details of how they're gonna make this actually kids friendly and what's the relationship with the main Instagram, but I know for a fact that there is a huge problem going on, not just on Instagram, but pretty much every platform with kids being unsafe.
And right now, as far as I understand it, for that age group, a lot of the social network is basically happening on video game sites. And you look at those applications as where that behavior is happening. And once that chat room opens up, who knows what's going on and what's being said in there. It's an absolute constant battle. How kids are going to adapt to the internet, and Facebook wants that market share. And are they the right company to build the social network for kids?
Yeah.
Have they proven their trust that they should be the ones?
That's the question I would ask, because I think there's definitely needs of space, safe space for kids. The question should not be whether or not kids should be online, because it's not something you could prevent. It's like whether or not drugs should exist or alcohol should exist. It's not that. Like, it's already there. People not gonna use it regardless of whatever restriction. Now, whether or not we can make it safe and whether or not Facebook could make it safe is a different ballgame.
Yeah, that's a great point. By the way, what is the contributor age restriction?
It's 18, but there have been
There's some 16-year-old. We have a 15 or 16-year-old that contributes pretty regularly, and he's particularly asked, like, is it okay if I'm like a 16-year-old? And we read his content and we find, and there's no comments right now under the story, so there's no way to like really harass a kid if there, someone out there. We make sure that all the people who publish on Hackanoon have the maturity and intelligence.
Becoming too social too fast, like opening up messaging and those types of things. We've taken more of a conservative approach and say your contributors can message each other on other platforms, not on ours right now.
Yeah. You can't message on Clubhouse either, by the way.
I know. I was trying to DM you earlier, and then it says start a chat room together. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But I have a little question regarding this thing with Instagram for kids. So can you please explain me why people were pissed off with this piece of news?
I don't think I'm pissed off, so I don't know if I could explain for other people. I would call it, if anything, I would just say it's expected. Like, Facebook just wants to get the user earlier. They want the messaging to happen in one of their apps. They don't really care which, and they want to host the content. So if they get them at 9, they're a longer term user than if they get them at 15 or 18. So I don't think a
lot of the
backlash much about their strategy
against Facebook in general is because of how they try their best to do during the George Floyd movement, and right now with the Stop Asian Hate movement. And I think and they got backlash for it as well during both. And I think it's because they have yet to prove that it's authentic and honest and not just like a reaction to the backlash against the earlier things that they do. Yeah.
I would say the fundamental difference that Facebook and I have an opinion is I believe curation has bias, and there's no way to get an unbiased curation, and it's not possible. So they really want to try and sit in the middle, never take a stance on anything at the same time as they're taking stances on all these issues. So it's a tough contradiction for me to swallow.
Yeah.
And And I have a question for you, David and Lynn. So, do you have any piece of news which was the most shocking or hot for you within the last 2 or 3 months? And why was it very hyped or hot for you?
So, a piece of news that's what characteristic?
Hype or hot.
You thought something interesting also?
Yeah,
I think the NFT bump has been very interesting of getting at a scarcity and originality.
Yeah, our first story about NFT was actually November or earlier of 2020. So we, as a tech company, we get in on some of the news earlier on. But yeah, I thought NFTs were just interesting because of the fact that it's not about the work, it's about the certificate of the work that matters. And the fact that you can just, let's say if you would sell a tweet and then you delete the tweet, there's no way in the policy that prevents the buyer of the certificate from saying you cannot delete the tweet. Now I would just have a reprint, so to speak, of it that live forever. And I think I also just been thinking about just the environmental impact of it and the fact that the market is just so volatile. And as we know, when a market is volatile, the people that usually rise up to the top would be, predatory. And just the people who usually get more information, who understand formation. The information is unlevel. And right now, I'm just thinking about the future of this very hot asset right now.
Okay. Yeah, actually, with NFTs, it was one of the maybe greatest news, not the greatest, but largest for sure within the last 3 months, because a lot of people still they don't get it, but they see they can make some money with NFTs. They see this huge cases when something was sold, something virtual was sold for a lot of money. They're trying to do something similar. And for sure, such a piece of news will go viral for sure.
Yeah, so whenever I see news like this, so there was this article, so I usually get my tech news from Hackanoon, right? But I go to my top stories, and one of the stories that really speaks to me lately is called I Love Bitcoin, but I Hate Bitcoin, from an economist. And it just hits me because it talks about how whenever Bitcoin is trending or a crypto is trending or something like NFTs is trending, the reason and the long-term impact of it is so vast. Decentralization of the internet and making artists a work that's viable, again, that's all very great. But usually the people who first get in on the thing usually is, like David said, predatory and greedy more than the people who actually believe in the potential of it as a technology and as something that could better humankind. So I feel usually conflicted about this kind of news, even though it surrounds us with something that we read every single day, reviewing stories for Hackanoon, but both skeptical and optimistic at the same time about these NFTs as well as other crypto.
I would add
news.
The thing that I'm hopeful for why NFTs won't be a wave that dies is I do think it's based on old tendencies. When a painter made a brilliant painting, the first reprint of it was still more valuable than the second and the third, and there's a reason they numbered all these reprints, and the basic technology that would be comparable here is the author writing 1 out of 500 and signing their name. And so I think that idea of getting closer to the originality and it being able to measure how close you are to the original is something underlying that a non-fungible token could be a big technology solution for.
That sounds very interesting, and I wanted to ask if I make a recap of our talk today and me and Yelena share our news, would it be something to be up on Hackanoon, or you usually do not put up your own interviews on Hackanoon?
Oh, we do that all the time. Please, like I mentioned, we love documentation. We think that everything should be text-based. Yeah. So Clubhouse, please take notes. There's thousands of people listening right now that could petition to Clubhouse. But yeah, no, in all honesty, though, I think this conversation cross-pollinate to other platform is the way to go, including Hackanoon. Yeah.
Amazing.
What if tokens were available as NFTs?
Ooh.
like how tweets are. I have some articles. I think someone would buy the NFT to make me delete.
If they did that, they could only delete the NFT.
Exactly. They cannot delete your article. It's not an ownership of the thing. It's ownership of the certificate of the thing. So
if someone pays me $100K, I'll delete any of my articles. And then Hackanoon $20K.
Here we go with the monetization model, guys.
I think that one's been tried before. It's called Catch and Release. It's used by all the tabloid magazines. But all seriousness, that's a great question, and I'm asking myself it.
Yeah,
Nice. So, are we going to wrap up our conversation?
Yeah, I think so. It was an amazing talk. I made a lot of notes. If you're up to it, Yelena, I will be happy to make a recap of this discussion. I think we hit many interesting points. Surely not all of the points that Hackanoon is about, because Hackanoon is such a great and huge community of writers and contributors and editors. And there's a lot to cover for sure. During this 1 hour, we were able to touch a lot of very interesting, valuable points, I think. So I will be happy to make this recap. And I really thank you for this talk today. And thank you for being so open and answering all of the questions. That was really amazing. I had a true pleasure talking to you guys.
yeah, thank you for having us. First time joining Clubhouse. I think a good impression so far. Yeah.
Hype news.
You should do more.
Yeah.
Yeah, we reserved our name like 6 months ago, and then we just sat around.
So, thank you for the conversation, and we are wrapping it up, and thank you for sharing all your thoughts, and I think that it was a really fruitful conversation for today, and I'm really happy talking to you guys. So, I hope to see you soon and hear from you soon, and have a nice
thanks,
day,
Yelena,
evening.
for taking us, for gathering all of us together here. It's your call. So yeah, it's great stuff. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye bye. Thank you all.